All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Berkeley High School's Disability Awareness Panel. This is part of Disabilities Awareness Month. My name is Andrew Regan. I'll be moderating this tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. So the purpose of tonight's panel is to listen and learn from students and faculty within our community with physical disabilities and who are neurodiverse. And we're here to provide a platform for their voices and experiences and hold a conversation about what BUSD can do to become more knowledgeable and connect as a community. So tonight's panel is going to be divided into 4 parts. First, we'll get a short introduction from our BUSD administration. Secondly, we'll hear from our student panelists. Third, we'll transition to faculty and staff panelists. And finally, we're going to open the floor to a brief Q&A session from the audience, where you guys can pose questions to our panelists. So the session is being recorded, and the recording will be shared after the event. Please keep questions respectful and relevant. You can submit them via the Q&A box. So to help introduce our event, we have 2 amazing speakers from the BSD administration. First, I'd like to introduce Sean Mansinger, who's our Executive Director of Special Education at Berkeley Unified. He's going to talk a bit about Disability Awareness Month and special education.
Right. Good evening, everyone. Really appreciate you, all our panelists here that are willing to come and to discuss their experience in education, having disability, and all of you that are coming here either in the middle of dinner or finishing dinner or going to start dinner in an hour. This is our very first disability awareness student panel since I've been here. And definitely long overdue. We know that our students' voices are the most important as far as us being able to serve them well. So I'm very excited to hear tonight some of the advice they have for us and some of the experiences they've gone through, as well as some of our staff members too, who have disabilities. I also want to just say that we have about 18% of our students either have IEPs and 504s in BUSD. 13% of those have IEPs, which is, and we have about 1,200 students in our district. Only 22% of our SPED students graduating having fulfilled their A to G requirements for CUSU eligibility, and only 16% of SPED students graduated eligible to apply for the UC system. So this is a huge area of growth for us. As part of the reason why we want to hear from our students and their experience in Berkeley Unified School District. I also want to quickly introduce our superintendent, Nikia Ford-Morthell, and see if she wants to give a little message to us.
Yes, good evening, everyone. You noticed that Sean said quickly because that was my reminder to be brief in my comments. I am very happy to be here and very proud of the idea that we're putting this on, but more so that we are putting this on with our students, Andrew and the other students who are on the panel. I just want to appreciate you for your initiative and for your agency and for the vision that you have. And so happy to be here this evening where that vision actually comes to fruition. You all might have heard me say before that we have a really bold and ambitious mission here in BUSD, and that is to enable and inspire our diverse student body to achieve academic excellence and make positive contributions to the world. When we talk about our diverse students, we're talking about all sorts of diversities, including recognizing that we have some students with disabilities and that they have both the right and the ability to learn alongside their peers. And because they're able to do so, or when they're able to do so, the educational experience of all students will be enhanced. You also might know that we have 4 E's in Berkeley, and those E's are excellence, equity, enrichment, and engagement. This evening's panel is an opportunity for us to demonstrate what true and authentic engagement looks like. We will have the opportunity to hear the voices and the experiences of our students and staff. And we believe by incorporating their experiences, incorporating them as thought partners, we will truly be able to make sure that our students have excellent experiences here in BUSD. I did also want to share that as we move closer to that mission, we understand and recognize not just the importance of uplifting voices and moments or evenings or events like these, but the ongoing and authentic partnership with our students who have diverse learning styles and diverse needs, and also their caregivers and community partners. And with that in mind, we have a new advisory committee called DSEEK, and that stands for Disability, Equity, and Special Education Advisory Committee. It also is the first in Berkeley, and it follows our resolution that we passed last January during Disability Awareness Month, which is what we know this month as. The DSEEK envisions a BUSD community where all individuals with disabilities strive for their best lives and have optimal health, safety, and opportunities for friendship, recreation, and lifelong learning. And the mission of the committee is to really center the perspective and experiences of students with disabilities within BUSD in our discussions about policy and our discussions about resource allocation and in all of our discussions. And so I'm happy to be here this evening, as this is one of many opportunities for us to center those perspectives again, and many opportunities for us to have that discussion together as a community truly invested in inclusivity and making sure that we definitely serve our diverse student learners. So with that, I would like to introduce or reintroduce Andrew Regan, and so excited to hear again all that we have to learn this evening. Andrew?
All right, let's get into our first panel, our student panel. So we're going to start right about now. So
Well, Andrew, do you want to just quickly introduce yourself, what grade you're in, and why this is your passion?
Me? Okay, sure. Yeah, I'm Andrew Regan. I'm a senior at Berkeley High. I've been doing work around neurodiversity since around my sophomore year. It sort of arose through connections through my family. Also interested in neuroscience. So and did a lot of programs of that through the summer, did the Stanford Neurodiversity Project. And this and some of my other work is sort of a continuation of the things I learned there. Yeah, I would suggest you guys to apply and try out that. I met a lot of great people who helped me with this work through that. That's not the best. Yeah.
That's great.
Let's go into better introductions from our students. Um, so for each of our student panelists, can you share your name, your grade, whether you hold a leadership position that's connected to disability awareness, and if you identify as disabled, neurodivergent, or something else? Karim, I believe you're first.
My name is Karim. I am a 10th grader and identify as and I'm autistic, and I identify as neurodiverse. I am the co-president of the Neurodiversity Club and co-president of the Disability Student Union.
Hi, everyone. My name is Eva Levinson. I'm a junior at Berkeley High, and I identify as dyslexic and having a learning difference. I also think neurodivergent works as well.
Emma, I believe you're next.
Okay, I'm Emma. I'm in 12th grade. I'm a co-president of the Disability Student Union and also president of Gender Expansive Youth Activists. I feel like that's very related to disability and disability awareness. And I have chronic pain, chronic fatigue, ADHD, bipolar disorder, and autism.
Hi, my name is Isabella Taylor. I'm in 12th grade, or also known as a senior. I identify as both physically disabled with ONH, which is a visual impairment, and then I also identify as neurodivergent with autism, ADHD, anxiety, and depression. And I am not a leader of the Disability Student Union, but I am part of it.
So for our first question, how have your disabilities/differences affected your student experience? And we're going to go in the same order.
My autism has made it more challenging to be sociable, so I have fewer friends than many of my peers. I also find it more difficult to remember people's names and work in a group setting.
I'd say my learning difference impacted me most in elementary school. I struggled a lot to learn to read. I didn't really like fully become literate until like third grade. I was really lucky that my parents kind of realized that there was an issue and were able to get me tutoring early on. I'd say the most lasting impact of my struggles in elementary school is anxiety, which I had clinically for a while now. Yeah. So
Um, I might have forgotten to mention that anxiety is one of my disabilities. Um, but all of my disabilities make schoolwork, like every aspect of it, more difficult. I struggled to finish assignments on time, to get to school on time, to just to focus in class, to get everything done. Um, bipolar disorder and anxiety make friendships a lot more difficult. I've worked really hard to make a lot of friendships, but it's a lot more difficult for me than it is for others. And pain and fatigue, in addition to anxiety and bipolar disorder, make it some days really, really difficult to get up in the morning, to get myself out of bed, to do whatever I need to do, get to school. Yeah, so it makes academics a lot more difficult for me.
Um, for me, having some, I guess having a disability has been rough, especially since we came out of a year after, like, we were the first year from quarantine. Um, but something that has been really hard is like with my anxiety is like talking to peers, and with like my ADHD it's basically like having like trying to do work on a laptop, but then you keep on getting a bunch of notifications, and so you don't really end up getting any work done. And so that makes it really hard for me to turn in projects and do my work on time. And then it's also really hard for me to be in a normal classroom setting because there's so much sensory input that is really hard for me to deal with, which also makes it really hard for me uh, to do what I need to do. And um, and then depression makes it really hard to get out of bed some days and go to school. So, yeah.
All right. For our next question, what's something you wish your teachers knew about you?
I wish my teachers knew that I often really find it very difficult to work in a group, and also that in a classroom, when it gets loud and chaotic, that significantly increases my stress level.
I always get stressed like more than usual the first essay of the year. And it can be really hard for me to sit in class and do in class essays in general, especially since I never learned how to type. So I only voice type. And so the first essay of the year, I was sitting outside in the hallway, which luckily my teacher said I was able to do. But then like a hall monitor comes up and is like, "No one's allowed in the hallway. You can't do this." And that was just like I was already really stressed, and so that was a really hard moment for me. And so I don't know, like having more pathways to like being able to like be outside or be like in the library doing work would be really nice. Um, this is kind of silly, but grammar, like doing grammar in class is kind of a triggering subject for me. So like sometimes getting like warnings ahead of time that we're like gonna be doing that. But I've mostly worked my way through that.
Um, some days, like I said before, like I won't be able to show up in class, especially first period. I won't get assignments done. I'll just like finish half of a final. And I really, really value my relationships with teachers, but often when I'm not able to show up as much as I wish I could, or participate in class as much as I wish I could, or develop relationships with my peers as much as I wish I could, I feel that teachers don't always understand how much I value their class, value learning in general. And I wish I was seen for that even though I can't fully show up physically or mentally or emotionally, I do care and I am trying to learn.
Sorry. Something for me is that I wish that teachers like realize that like I am very passionate about specific subjects, but some subjects I have much more of a challenge with, and it doesn't mean I don't like learning, and it doesn't mean I don't want to be there. It's just harder for me, and like similar to what Eva was saying, there was a time when I was, taking a test and I had to have noise cancellation headphones because it was really loud, and I got in trouble by one of the like helpers because they were like, "You're not supposed to be listening to music, it's a test." But everybody was really loud because I'm in like a special kind of program. So it was really rough, and I had to kind of advocate for that, I guess.
Great. Thank you. Now for our last question we're posing to all the students. What motivated you to participate in today's panel, and what message do you hope to share with the audience?
What motivated me to participate in today's panel was a desire to improve the status of neurodiverse students at BHS and help them be more successful. And a message that I want the audience to take away from this panel is that allyship is the number one way that non-disabled students and non-disabled people in general can help neurodiverse and or disabled students and people.
What motivated me to come to this panel today is my desire to make BUSD better and more inclusive for all students of all neurodivergencies and learning difference levels and all the things. Though I do not have a leadership role on any learning difference neurodiverse clubs, I have been trying to advocate for a better literacy curriculum, which we're starting to get and implement in BUSD, which I'm super excited to see the results of. And a message I'd like to share with the audience is just because you have a learning difference or you identify as disabled or whatever you identify as doesn't mean you're any less than like quote unquote neurotypicals, because there's also like no real such thing as a neurotypical in my opinion. I think we all have uniquely differentness, and I think it's really beautiful and that having like a learning difference doesn't make you any worse or like dumber or anything. It just means that you have another way of learning and that you have strengths in other areas that other people don't have, which is kind of special. Something that my parents tried to instill in me was that, dyslexia isn't like it doesn't make you dumb or stupid. It's a superpower. And I know it's kind of cheesy, but I think we should all try to see it as a superpower. It's like something that brings more diversity and more more different ways of thinking, I think, is always better, and produces better results.
I'm here because BUSD in general and Berkeley High have a really big problem with how students with disabilities are treated in terms of a lack of adequate staff education on how to interact with us, especially how to interact with students with invisible disabilities. I'm here because students in every class, especially the boys, like to call each other autistic, like to call each other special ed, like to call each other the R slur, because they think it's funny, and it isn't. I'm here because I need teachers to intervene when that happens, and I'm here ultimately because I'm not used to being the person who's asked on a panel. I'm used to being the person like starting the fight, and just actually being asked to come here is really feels really special to me. A message I'm hoping to share with the audience is that people with disabilities exist, even if you can't see their disabilities, and that people with disabilities are human, that people in this audience with disabilities matter just as much as you do. And an important one for when we're in spaces with folks with disabilities is that not all people with disabilities, in fact, not the majority of people with disabilities, are white, heterosexual, cisgender, all of that stuff. Like, we are a diverse community, and we need to represent every person's voice and every person's story.
One of the reasons why I wanted to come on here and talk to you guys is because I've seen so many people struggle with how Berkeley, specifically Berkeley High, has handled disabilities. I've seen a couple of friends leave Berkeley High because it just wasn't the right fit, and I'm glad that they found the right fit, but they shouldn't have to leave. Like, that should be a sign to Berkeley High that maybe you need to start changing things so that way you can be welcoming. And a message that I want to tell the audience is that not all disabilities are the same. Like, even if two people in a room have autism, they're not going to be exactly the same. Like, we're all different human beings, and invisible disabilities matter too. As someone who has both a physical and a more visible disability and an invisible disability, I feel like both matter, and I hate to see people with invisible disabilities get pushed to the side, because it, like, no matter what the disability is, it impacts our learning, and that isn't really fair, and I feel like people should be doing more to deal with that.
Thank you so much. Those are some amazing responses, and we can also see some people in the audience who are showing their appreciation and are really enjoying these responses. So in the effort of answering the most important questions, but not taking up too much of everyone's time, we just have two more questions that will each be answered by one of our students, Karim and Emma. So, Karim, how can Berkeley High student community address prejudice against disabled students, and how can non-disabled students be allies to disabled students?
One of the most common examples of prejudice against disabled students that I see at BHS is, as Emma has mentioned, people casually using the R slur as a joke. I often hear these things when I'm at BHS, and I find them, and they're deeply offensive to my identity. This has to stop, and the way in which students can stop it is by being an ally, by calling them, have to be an ally, and call them out on their offensive remarks. And what the BHS administration needs to do about this is doing more to promote allyship among BHS students. And I think that they could do that by creating programs similar to mental health peer educators, is to have students educate their peers about neurodiverse and disabled identities and how to be an ally.
Thank you, Karim. For our next question, Emma, what's the most effective way to spread awareness about disabilities to the students of BHS?
Well, this is supposed to be a school. This is a school. Berkeley High is a school. So the most simple answer to that question is that we should teach, right? Like, people at Berkeley High, teachers, students, maybe even a lot of people in this Zoom meeting have no idea what the disability rights movement was. That Berkeley is and was the center of the disability rights movement. Like, we have not covered that in any of our history classes. We have learned next to nothing about how to talk about people with disabilities, how to engage with people with disabilities, what a mental disability is, like the importance of self-care. None of these things are things we are taught. And at Berkeley High especially, and the home of the disability rights movement, these are things that we need to be taught. And I don't know, I like bulletin videos. I feel like just if teachers could take time every week to talk to their class about the little something about disabilities, because it relates to every subject. It relates to English, history. Yeah, I just feel like taking time to teach each other. That's all we need. This is the school.
Thank you so much. Those were amazing responses. Thank you so much to our student panelists. And now we're gonna shift to two representatives from our home-based program, Josh Austin. We have a current teacher and we have a current student.
Hello. My name is Josh Austin, and I'm a teacher in the home base program at Berkeley High. And home base is a small learning community for students with extensive support needs. There are currently 26 students in this learning community, and we have classes in social skills / daily living, community transition, English, history, science, and math. And these courses are designed to teach students functional, foundational, academic, and life skills, and provide opportunities to practice skills in real-world situations. Specific learning opportunities include community safety, travel training, money management and shopping, cooking, small business management, and social and communication skills. These courses provide credit towards a high school diploma through the alternative pathway or a certificate of completion. Our students have access to all Berkeley High activities and general ed courses based on student interest and skill, student and family priorities, and individual education plan team recommendations. Juniors and seniors over the age of 16 have access to the Transition Partnership Program, which may include volunteer internships or paid employment opportunities as part of the student's individual transition plan. Joshua, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Joshua Phillips, and I'm one of the students of the home base program. Nice to meet
Okay.
all of you.
So the first question is a question that the other students on the panel were asked. How have your disabilities or differences affected your experience at school in Berkeley?
Like when I don't remember because it was like a long time ago, but I remember like it was a lot back then. Like I wouldn't say that it was my disability. It was like not my disability that I have. I don't like talk about my disability personally because I feel if I don't talk about my disability like a lot, it gives me like more confidence to like make me like just like feel like like a normal person. But like I understand if you don't have to be ashamed of your disability. Just for me, like confidence wise, it gives me a confidence boost if I don't think about my disability. But I remember that like it wasn't my disability. It was just mostly like like I just didn't like to listen in class a lot, and I just barely liked math because it was hard. I forgot what my disabilities were, so like mostly it was like math and like reading. I'm really good at reading now, just like it's mostly still math. So that's how my disability or like my learning experience has affected me.
And what have your experiences been like in special education in Berkeley schools?
Special education, I met some great teachers along the way. Like I remember in elementary school a lot. Like they helped me out a lot. Just like at the same time, I didn't listen to them because like I just didn't. I just mostly didn't like. Sorry about that. Yeah, like I mostly just didn't want to like listen to what they had to say because it's like I didn't understand at the time. But as I got like older, like right now, I understand what they meant by like how there's gonna be harder programs when you like graduate, and I understand that now. But like along the way, like I've got taught a lot of stuff. Like there was a teacher in middle school right now, like Scott. He taught me a lot. Like, and I'm grateful that I met him because he helped me through middle school and like me and him like we were like we had an unbreakable bond ever since. But in high school, like I'll say it's been a crazy run. Like all the teachers in home base, they're really nice people. Like they teach us a lot. They make sure that when we like that we need help, and they challenge us in a way that feels like for like regular classes, and it's been challenging. There's been a few bumps in the roads for like some of the students that kind of misbehave, but if you throw the misbehaving out and all the craziness that happens sometimes, we're all a big happy family. So that's all I had to say about that.
Thank you. Is there anything that you wish your teachers knew about you?
That that I just don't want to be treated like the other kids because I understand like I'm a student, just like I'm not like a student that has like a severe disability like the others do. Because it's like I want to be like treated like one of the students that will be like treated in like regular classes, like not like the other students sometimes. Like they do a good job of doing it, but at the same time, I just it's just mostly an authority problem that I have sometimes. Like it's complicated, but that's what I wish that I want to know.
Okay. And what is your opinion on the labels person with a disability or disabled person? And how do you like to be addressed?
Like I said before, like if you want to be like addressed as a kid with a disability or a person like that has a disability, go right ahead. Like nobody's stopping you. But like for me, I like for me it was always just like me trying to feel like trying to like fit in and feel like a normal person, and not a kid with a disability.
Okay. And lastly, because I heard this question from the other students. So do you have any messages you wanted to share with the audience?
Like I need a second to think about this, but yeah, like if you have a disability, don't be ashamed about it, because it's like I know I said I don't like to talk about my disability, but that's for like a confidence problem. Don't be ashamed that you have a disability. And if you hear kids like make fun of like kids with disabilities, or they make fun of you specifically and call you like the R word or something like that, like don't pay no mind to them, cause cause like with Black History, right? Like they called like a lot of people black people back then the N word, right? But they defy those odds, and that's how Black people are here today, right? Same with disability people. If you hear them say that, like maybe stop them, but like don't pay them no mind, because if we build this bond between the disability programs, and we're together, like we can probably stop this, and we can defy those odds, and it'll be a better place for kids with disabilities.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you guys so much. Thank you so much to our home-based representatives, Josh and Joshua. Now we're gonna transition to our faculty and our staff panelists. They're gonna provide their perspectives on being disabled / neurodivergent or neither, and how they support students with disabilities. All right. So can you start by sharing your name, your role in BOSD, and if you identify as disabled, neurodivergent, or something else? Do we publish in order? Let's start with Matthew.
Hi, my name is Matthew Hatai. I also went to the Berkeley school district. I currently work at Thousand Oaks, and I'm so happy that that was my elementary school, and now I'm back there. My let's see, I work with as a SPED 2 IA. And then I have a cognitive impairment with from my brain surgery.
Andrea, you want to go next?
Hi, I'm Andriana Nicolau. I'm a former speech language pathologist. I worked in Berkeley Unified the last 2 years. Now I'm somewhere new. And I'm neurodivergent, ADHD, and I'm really happy to be here.
Hi, I'm Julie. I work as an ESL teacher at Berkeley Adult School. I identify as disabled. I have epilepsy, fibromyalgia, scoliosis, depression, and other medical conditions. And I'm excited to be here too.
Hello, I'm Tom Reed. I'm the principal of Berkeley Adult School. I am visually impaired and have been almost all my whole life. And I've just really enjoyed the discussion so far. So thank you.
All right. Let's start with our first question and go in the same order. What challenges do you face in your professional life as a result of your disability / difference?
I really don't suffer from any challenges, but from my day-to-day challenges is balance, maybe some speech, and then also just not being able to drive because of my perspective and my quickness to like turn the wheel.
For me, I'm just constantly uncomfortable. There's a lot of sensory overwhelm, so much small talk. And I think there's something about once you join the workforce where they just think that you should be able to handle everything. And there's a bit of a stigma, I think, about labeling yourself as having a disability because you don't want to not get a job or be treated differently, but then you might not get accommodations you need. Or if you do have accommodations you want to get, you might have to pay for them yourself, like light covers. And just the demands of the job sometimes can be really hard. Like I remember, or for an example, in speech, they expect you at my current job to finish a session and then within that same minute, start your next session and go back to back to back. And for me, it's so hard to switch tasks and change up the routine and get the next thing ready all within the same time frame. Just like there's a lot. Also, I work in a school still, so there's kind of this added returning to the scene of trauma where it was a place that was really hard for me as having differences, and now I'm back there and having to hear still how students are talked to or talked about, how your coworkers might talk about disabilities or families. It's really hard to sometimes hear all these negative perspectives or harmful language still being used.
My challenges include like the first day of class that teaching, I had a seizure. And I urinated all over myself. It was kind of embarrassing. Another challenge is when I have seizures for 2 or 3 weeks afterwards, it affects my memory, especially with words. But I'm always had a seizure within 2 or 3 weeks of varying sizes. So this means I'm constantly working very hard to remember words, especially names, and I have to plan ahead to make sure I have all the words ready. Because of the fibromyalgia and scoliosis at the end of class, I usually have a lot of pain. I'm beginning to figure out what to do to keep that from happening. And then with the depression, it's mainly this one symptom I have, rumination. So if something happens that is upsetting in any ways, I can think about it a lot and a lot and a lot for a very long time. Those are my challenges.
So, a few things. First, as visually impaired person, like my colleague Matthew on the next screen over, I don't drive. I do get around on a bicycle. So some people find it really odd when they see me get off of my bicycle and then pull out my white cane. So there's all kinds of things that any individual may be able to do or not do and still be under the same label, in my case, visually impaired. And anyway, so that's something that affects me, getting around the various school sites that I need to visit as an adult school principal. Also in my role, an important part of my job is to walk into a classroom and understand what's going on, to monitor how instruction's going. And of course, I cannot read a thing that's being displayed on the screen or on the whiteboard unless I get just a few feet away. And so I have had to explain to my staff that, listen, I'm taking pictures in your classroom, not because I'm a special spy, but because then I can take that picture and zoom in and see a lot more of what's going on in the class. I think the biggest barrier for me has to do, or the challenge for me has to do with education being a people business, and how we relate to people is like the very core central thing. And frankly, until I get to know somebody, I may not recognize them until they get really close to me. I will learn eventually how different teachers, for example, their students are shaped and the kinds of things they wear. But it's been I had a teacher once who worked with me for more than a year, and she learned that I was visually impaired. Oh, I thought you were stuck up. You never greeted me in the hallway from way, way down in the long, long hall. So the communication has been an important part for addressing that challenge of looking really able, but not really able to behave as people expect.
All right, thank you so much. We're gonna go to our second question, which is, how do you support students with disabilities through your work?
I support students by just helping them do the work and maybe encouraging them, and then if they're not willing to do the work, maybe like bribe them with doing the iPad or something else.
For me, I work only with students that have an IEP, so that are within special education. And I feel like my main focus and objectives in supporting students with disabilities is guiding them towards more self-acceptance and self-understanding, so they know there's not something broken or wrong with them. We just need to figure out new ways to do things that maybe just work better for them, and that they're fine as they are. We just need to learn new ways to do things that might be different than other people. And just the biggest thing, I think, is advocacy. Teaching them how to advocate for themselves, and also just trying to do as much, sometimes hidden advocacy on the sides, putting out little posters in rooms, or putting a little blurb in a report. At Berkeley, I helped co-found at King Middle School, I helped co-found the Disabled but Abled Club. Just trying to change how we talk about disabilities and creating safe spaces for students with disabilities to help find their people and also feel comfortable within the school population at large.
I've only been teaching since September and have not come across students who identified as disabled. So the way I support students I'm imagining that are out there who are disabled is by doing things like this month, the flag, using the stripes and the flag to broaden the understanding of disability and to create material specific to each stripe. Also, students are learning language, and sometimes they'll say words like crazy. I have one student who says crazy and losing your mind, and she didn't realize these were derogatory terms. So helping students with language to make it a safe space. And also when I had the seizure, the next day it became a teaching moment. And so not only did students, learn more about epilepsy and also deal with any anxieties they had, it also showed me being open about my disability, and hopefully any students who want to talk about it will feel able to, or who want to talk about their own disabilities.
So my own role is not within a classroom. So my interactions with students are mostly informal. But as an adult school, our students do not typically come with an IEP that we need to process. So we're very much dependent on students self-identifying to say they need support. And so that's why these self-advocacy skills that students and other colleagues here have talked about are so important. We do publish that we have various supports. Some of our teachers on entry of new students, they'll have surveys that they give, and those include about access needs that students may have. I think one of the things that I mentioned, my white cane, that is actually a new tool for me just in 2024. And I think for me to used my cane around school, even though I can get around physically very well, is a gesture I make to communicate that all abilities are welcome here. Everybody is welcome.
All right. For our last question for the faculty, what advice would you give to your high school self about navigating school as a disabled slash neurodivergent student, or how to get involved in disability awareness?
To give my high school like some advice, I kind of thought pretty positive when I was in high school, so and I was pretty sure that I would make it where I am today. Um, I yeah, pretty much just but I think just to give myself my high school self advice is just keep going and uh don't give up.
Put down the eyeliner and the side part is not doing what you think it's doing, then just kidding. I heard this kind of sentiment from an ADHD advocate named Ellie Mids, and I wish I had heard it back then, so I'm going to kind of paraphrase, but baby high school Andriana, you're going to think for a long time you're like a faulty PC computer and hardware's not working, and you keep getting error messages and just things aren't connecting and doing what they do. But one day you're going to learn you're actually just a Mac, and the things you were trying to use weren't working for you. The systems you were trying to use just weren't aligned with your processing system, but you're going to find the right codes and the right hardware, and you'll start to learn more about yourself and how you work, and it'll get better. Stay friends with the people you're with. They're also neurodivergent. You just don't know it yet. You'll all find out later. And just remember, there's nothing wrong with you. You're just still learning how to be in your own body and work with yourself instead of against it.
I would tell my high school self, I guess, a few things. One is, go to the Center for Independent Living. All right. There's all these requirements like school require accommodations, job require accommodations, but the Center for Independent Living can help you outline what are reasonable accommodations and teach you laws, like you don't have to say you have an accommodation when you're in a job interview. I mean, just teach you these things and even help you with your accommodations with high schools. The Center for Independent Living is very helpful. When I was in high school, I had just started having seizures. I only had them once every few months. I wasn't yet diagnosed with depression, and I didn't have any of the other disabilities. So I didn't identify as disabled. So I think I would try and use the disability pride flag to broaden understanding of disability. When I show material to students, I would not use, inspiration porn, right? It wouldn't be about people overcoming their disabilities. It would be about people living with their disabilities. And then I would also make sure to teach the concept of ableism, right? That ableism exists. And it exists, in the use of our words. It also exists in very subtle ways, like using disability as a metaphor. I mean, it's just everywhere. There's not a whole lot of awareness about ableism. So that's something that I would want to make sure students knew. I would want to make sure they knew this new word.
When I was in high school, I wish I had a friend like Josh in home base who could tell me, don't be ashamed. Because I think that's what drove me to just pretend I didn't need any help. I even had a teacher once who assigned us a seating chart based on our last name, alpha order, and I ended up about 5 rows back from the board. I couldn't see a thing. I could watch the movement of his hand, and discerns them of his writing that way. A little ways into the school year, he asked me, oh, you must have talked to my special ed teacher, because he said, would you like to move to the front? No, I'm okay. Like, I didn't want to put somebody out who would change seats and move to the 5th position back. I'm sure anybody that sat in the front row would have been happy to move to the back of the class. So don't be ashamed. Accept yourself, speak up for what you need. And if you're not sure what you need, find someone you trust to say, hey, here's the problem I'm facing. Can you help you figure out how to address this? Because, you know, everybody has ability to succeed. And we just got to find the right keys to live into the abilities that you have. So don't be ashamed.
All right, with that, that concludes our staff questions. We're now going to take questions from the audience. So to submit a question, please Q&A feature. Keep questions respectful and relevant, and we're going to address as many as time allows. But we are nearing our 7 p.m., so we may stretch to 7:05 to make sure we get at least 1 or 2 questions from the audience.
If the
So we are.
audience wants to raise their hand, I can promote you so you can actually ask the question.
Okay.
So I'm just looking for raised hands. Okay, see,
We have a raised hand from one of our panelists. Eva, do you wanna go?
Sorry, that was by accident. I don't know how I did that.
Totally fine. We have a question that came in earlier from Rebecca Levinson. She says, I wonder if anyone who's ever had the R word thrown around or other derogatory, harmful, abusive language, know they have rights under Title IX. Okay. So yeah, has any of our students or faculty have had the R word thrown at them? Any bad experiences that they can point to? Mark, do you want to answer or no? That's might be one of our audience. Okay, we have some more questions coming in. So from Jen Korn, are there any suggestions for teachers for how to be more accommodating? She wants to hear some more about the universal design for learning. So any of our teachers or students can answer that.
With the Department of Rehabilitation, helped me get my new job, and I had a career counselor for 3 months. And all I know about universal design is that it essentially some of the accommodations I needed, which were to have people take notes and to write checklists, were things that actually benefited everybody. So with universal design, my understanding of it, my very brief understanding of it, is that it's sort of equity, right? So you wouldn't need to do accommodations at some level because they'd be embedded, you know, in the learning, in the design of how learning happened, right? So there'd always be checklists, there'd always be note taking. I'm guessing it affects architecture. I'm really speculating here.
Okay, Eva and Emma, do you guys also want to answer that question, or are those also by accident?
I was hoping to answer. As someone who has reduced assignments accommodation on my 504 plan, just often on assignments, teachers there won't really be an option for someone who needs to do less work and still understand all of the material. So to the extent it's possible to just prioritize the things that matter, like specify these are the key points you need to understand, just making that clear. And then on another level, understanding, primarily for teachers who are trying to implement universal design curricula who don't have disabilities, that they're probably going to mess up, and that when they say that they're giving enough time for every student to finish an assignment, they probably aren't, unless they're asking every student if it's enough time.
Okay, Eva, do you also want to respond?
Yeah, just a quick thing. I think that people with 504s should have the opportunity to meet with their counselor like at least every semester and like just check in about what's going on. I only had like one meeting last year and we hadn't updated my 504 since elementary school, and there's a ton of things that like weren't necessary and then some new things that I wanted to add. And sometimes it can just be really hard to talk to teachers, especially at the beginning of the year, to advocate for yourself about what you need. And so having counselors having like already met with you and like figured out a plan, being able to communicate that to teachers very early on, I think would be helpful.
Thank you,
Karim, you want
Andrew.
to answer?
Oh,
Generally, I think that teachers can be more accommodating to students by reaching out to students about what accommodations they need and being receptive to their students regarding accommodations.
Yeah, great. And Mark, you had a question?
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, great, thanks. So I'm on the other end. My son is now in college, but I'm wondering for the students, what has been sort of your experience of being included in 504 or IEP meetings, and what's worked well in doing that, and what's worked in sort of helping you be an advocate for yourself about what you need to be successful?
I guess I can go. So the first 504 meeting I was, privy to was last year. And I felt like it worked really well. I was just with my like normal school counselor, which we have like something like 6 of for all of Berkeley High, which is kind of crazy. And we went through my 504 plan and we were able to like take away some stuff. And yeah, I thought that worked really well. As I said before, I think we should try to have like mandatory meetings at least once a year for people with 504s. Well, I mean, I guess not mandatory, but if the student like would like one. So yeah.
Okay, and just saying again, we are officially past our time, so if any panelists have stuff to do or have to leave, that's totally fine. But I think we're going to continue with maybe a few more questions, just because we're getting some great questions and great responses here. So Susan asks, for any of the students, what has been the best support you've had in terms of advocating for what you need at BHS? Karim, you gonna go?
The best support that I received is being able to type assignments instead of writing them out by hand, because I often find it I often find it a lot easier to be able to type because I can type more quickly than I can write, and I find it a lot easier to express my ideas well when I'm typing versus writing. In addition, I've also found extra time on tests to be very helpful because I also can sometimes find it challenging to finish it in the amount of time that's given to everyone for the test.
Okay, we have a question about home base, so Josh, you might want to take this one. How do you capture the voice and experience of the home-based students as part of the larger disability community at BHS?
Well, I don't know what the connections really are between the larger community at this time. I just learned that there's a disability rights union, or disabled student union, I think it's called. So I'm interested in trying to get some of my students to go to that club, their meetings. We have the Best Buddies program, which pairs students with our students, pairs general ed students with our students from home base. But that's not really part of the broader disability community at Berkeley High. So yeah, we haven't really established that connection.
Let's take one more question. What areas has your disability or neurodivergence made you stronger?
I think I'm a better writer because of my disability, so maybe that means that I'm better at expressing myself because I have to do it so much. That I'm better of just telling people about myself, writing about myself.
Emma, go ahead.
Briefly, in response to what Josh had said, I would love to get in touch at some point. And then in response to the question, I feel like being a disabled person in a world that doesn't really care about people with disabilities, it's made me a much better listener, because often, like, I'll be in a classroom or any community space and I'll be in a lot of pain, or I'll be feeling really depressed or hypomanic or anxious, anything, and no one will ask about it. No one will know. So I feel like I've learned the importance of asking those questions, of being open to hearing what people have to say. Yeah.
All right. I think we're gonna wrap it up. We've had some great questions, some amazing responses to the pre-written questions and the audience questions. So I just want to thank all the panelists. Thank you for sharing your experiences and your expertise to our audience, for joining this important conversation. So as we're wrapping this up, I would like to encourage everybody to explore the resources that are shared in the Disability Awareness Month webpage, and to continue learning, educating ourselves, and support a more inclusive and connected community. We will be sending out this recording of the panel and some additional resources shortly. So thank you for being part of this very impactful event. Have a great evening, guys.
I know the attendees we can't see them, but let's give a huge round of applause for all of our students and our staff, and also to Andrew for organizing this and leading this effort. I appreciate you all. Thank you so much for coming out here and being so brave and sharing your stories. We've got a lot to think about. Have a wonderful evening, everyone.
Thank you, Andrew. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.